Welcome to Library Tress YouTube channel. Today we'll be learning how to make this princess dart coat shoulder 3-tiered sleeve with Canoe neckline. Okay, it's a mixed match of Ankara fabric and jean material. So if you haven't subscribed to our channel, kindly do so and click on the notification bell so that you get notified anytime we upload a new video.
Okay, so I have my basic bodice ready. This is my armhole line, the chest line, the bust point waistline, the hip line, the M line, and the allowance. Then I went ahead to take my measurements and I have my seam allowance also ready. So this is my basic neckline and my shoulder slants. So the next thing I'm going to do now is I will go ahead and take my bust fan measurement, also known as the native to nipple. For this person is 8 inches divided by 4 is going to give divided by 2, sorry, it's going to give me 4 inches. That's it divided by 2. And because I'm drafting directly on my fabric, I'll be adding my seam allowance to it. So I'll be adding half each seam allowance to it, and that's going to give me 4.5 inches. So I'm going to measure 4.5 round here, and then I'm going to make it into a straight line. Okay, so I made that into a straight line already, sorry. So this is my bust span measurement right here, and remember it's a princess dart. And also remember I said this is our bust point, so I decided to take 1 inch away from my bust point before I continue my mark. So you can see this is 1 inch below. I didn't let my bust band measurements get to my bust point exactly. I stopped it at 1 inch. Okay, so now we are going to be working on the princess seam aspect of the dress. So now I'm going to take my tape measure and measure around the armhole that I have, and here I have around 9 inches for my armhole. I'll divide that by 2 and it's going to give me 4.5 inches. So the 4.5 inches that I have, I'm going to mark it right here. Okay, and then the same way I did, I'm going to measure 1.5 inches. Okay, so let me just measure 1 inch away from my bust span measurement. That's 4.5, and then I'm going to connect that using my straight ruler to my 4.5 mark for my armhole. Okay, so once I connect that, I'll take my armhole dart and I'll be taking half inch on both sides. So I'll take half inch here and also half inch on the other side here, and then the half inch I'm going to connect it to my dart leg here. Remember, it's not on my bust point measurement. I went up by 1 inch, so I'm going to connect that like this. So the amount of that, the total amount of that I took for this armhole is 1 inch. So the 1 inch that I took here, in order for me not to have a shortage on my armhole, I took a dart of 1 inch here. I'll come outside here by 1 inch. So I'm going to extend my armhole measurements here by the 1 inch that I'm taking here, and using my curved ruler I'll redraw my armhole measurements. So with this, I'm sure that I will not have any shortage by the time I join my darts together. Okay, so that is taken care of. And now I'll go over to my waist dart. So my waist measurements, I'll be taking 1 inch dart. You can take half inch if you want. I'm taking a dart of 1 inch because I want a little bit of cup around the area. And then on the 1 inch, I'll join it to where my bust span measurement stops. Remember, that is 1 inch below our bust point, and I have it here. So I have 2 inches space that I'm yet to cover. That's 1 inch below my armhole, my bust point measurement for my waist dart, and 1 inch above my bust point measurement for my armhole dart. So I don't want them to join each other because I don't want it to be sharp. I don't want any pointy area around that side. So to continue to cover up this space, I'm just going to go in with my curved ruler like this, and then find a space that will give me a nice curve. Then I'll give it a very smooth curve to complete my dart. You can see how beautiful this is, and it's not looking any sharp at all. So now to complete my dart, from my hip line measurement, I'm going to go up here by 2 inches, and then I'm going to complete my dart line. And then I have my dart complete. So if you are working with a half length, maybe you want to join peplum to it, you are going to be stopping your princess darts around here. And if you are working with a blouse, you are going to be stopping around there. Because I'm working with a dress and I want it cut through, because I want to attach ankara to the princess dart line, that is why I'm measuring it all through like this. So now I'm done with my princess dart. I've taken all my necessary allowance for this dart. Now I'm going to cut this off. Now then we'll move over to the back bodice. Okay, so this is the back bodice. Now I have my zipper allowance, sorry, my zipper allowance is right here, and this is my basic back bodice. So I already took my bust span measurements, and as usual I stopped 1 inch below my bust point measurement, and here I've also marked my 4.5 inches for my armhole division. So I'll just measure 1 inch above my bust point measurements also to draw my armhole curve. So right here now I'm going to take my ruler and then connect my armhole from here to here. Okay, so for the back dart, I'm not going to be taking any dart for the armhole, so I'm just going to be extending it by 1/2 inch, because remember I'm still going to sew it, so that will still give me a shortage. So I'll just go up here by 1/2 inch, just 1/2 inch, and then extend my line, then take my curved ruler to redraw my measurements. Okay, so using my curved ruler, I'm just going to redraw my armhole measurement on my 1/2 inch mark. So my armhole is ready. Then I'll go over to my waist dart. Also on the waist dart, I'm just going to be taking 1/2 inch on both sides. Normally for my back measurement, I already took 1 inch here, inside here, for my zipper allowance, because I don't want any bulge by the time I sew in my zipper. So with this now I'm covered. I'm sure if I sew it in, it's going to lie flat on the back of my clan. So I just need 1/2 inch here to take as my dart, and I'm going to connect it to my bust point. Okay, so I'll do this now, and then using my curved ruler again, I'm going to give this a smooth curve, just like I did in the front bodice. So I'll measure 2 inches away from my hip line, and then I'm going to complete my dart line. And so that is how you take your princess dart for your back body. So likewise, if you are doing this for an half length, you just need to stop here on your waistline. If it's for a blouse, you stop here on your hip line, and for a dress you just go all the way down like I am going. Okay, so now before I cut this out, for this project I'll be working, this is a basic neckline measurement. I'll be working with a Canoe neckline. So from my base, this is 3 inches by 1 inches for the back, and I use 3 inches by 3 inches for the front. So for my basic neckline measurement, I'll just extend this by maybe 2.5 inches. It's a Canoe neckline, so that means I'll be having a total neckline width of 5.5 inches, and then using my curve, I have 1 inch here, sorry, I can go as low as 1.5 inch, and then using my curved ruler, I'm going to connect this together. Okay, so this curve is a bit, so I'm just going to get a better curve. So I think this curve is better. Then I'm going to take it like this. So the same thing I'm doing here, I'm going to repeat on my, remember my front neckline still has the regular basic neckline. So I'm going to take my front bodice also, and then I'm going to draw out my canoe neckline the same way I did for my back neckline. So remember, I took 2.5 inches. I'm taking the 2.5 inches here. I can either leave it at 3 inches or go as deep as 3.5 inches also for this. And then using my curve, I'm going to connect this together. Okay, I don't know. Okay, I think the inner curve is a bit better. Okay, so I have a better curve now. I'm just going to use this to connect my canoe neckline. Okay, so all this is done now. The next thing I'm going to do is just to cut this out now so that I can start to sew. Okay, so I've cut out my back panel now. When I was cutting, I just remember that the client specifically requested for plenty allowance, so I just added 1 inch extra before I cut it out. Okay, but actually 2 inches allowance is enough. It's more than enough. Let's say you sew by half inch here, you still have like 1.5 1 inch, which is not bad, because too much allowance just makes the clothes unnecessarily bulky. Okay, so now our dart is off now, as we can see. So like I said, I'll be adding this ankara to the dart line all around like this. That was why I cut it through. If not, I would have just stopped my cutting around this area, then sew together. But I want it to have this ankara fabric in between its round. That was why I cut it. And this ankara fabric, I cut it on bias. So I'm just going to demonstrate how I did that to us now. So assuming this is our fabric, you'll not be cutting it straight like this. You're just going to be fold it on bias like this. So I hope you understand that. Assuming your fabric is like this, you will not be cutting it straight. You need to measure, fold it on bias, and then once you have it on bias like this, then you turn it. This is how you cut your bias from. So you just take the measurement. For this I used 1 inch, so I just measured my 1 inch round like this, and then I cut it out, and then I went ahead to take it to my ironing table, and then I ironed it and folded it like this in front of a bias. That is why it is lying this flat for me. So I've cut out my front bodies. The back bodies, I'll just show us the front bodies quickly now. Okay, so this is the front bodies. Also, you can see our 1 inch that is off, and the armhole that is also off. So like I said, I'm just going to sew this, and I may decide to just add this to the front bodies. If I have enough bias, I can add this to both the front and the back bodies on the dart line area. So I'll just take this over to my sewing machine now and start to sew them together. Okay, so I've sewn it one of my front darts, and I added my ankara fabric like I was talking about. So this is the ankara that is just showing on the dart line, and I'll be using my iron to press it down. So I just thought to show us the simple way you can easily add bias strip inside your dart line, and it will be accurate and perfect for you. So as you can see here, on one side of my bodies, I've already sewn in my dart line like this. Okay, so once you sew it in like this, if you want to introduce the other side of your bodies to it, it becomes very easy for you, because once you take it together like this, I take it to the sewing machine, it will be easier for you to see the seam line, the seams that you already made. So once you just take the two together like this with your already sewn in bias, once you take it together like this, your seam line will just be showing, and it is this seam line that you just follow all through like that. So it will give you a perfect and accurate dart line like that. Okay, so now I've sewn in my bias, my ankara bias, to all of my pieces, and I've ironed them. You can see how flat it is laying for me, both inside and outside. So quickly, the next thing I'm just going to do now is this is not going to be having any lining, so it's very easy. I'm just going to join it on my shoulder ear like this, both front and back. Then I'm going to shape the side, and then I'm going to turn the neckline also with my Ankara bias. Then I will fix zipper on it before I do fix my sleeve. So I'll quickly do that now, then come back to show us. Okay, so I've turned the neckline with an Ankara fabric. I also joined it on the shoulder area, so I went ahead to sew it on the side with my seam allowance. So you should be very careful. You can see, if you look at this very well, all the points have to match. You can see that even after joining my princess that together, you can see that my waistline that I drew when I was drafting still matches. If you go over to the bust point also, you will see that the line still matches, and also on the shoulder area. So once you do all this, it will be very easy for you to join, and your allowances will be exactly where you want it to be. So now that I've joined it together, I'm just going to go ahead and flip it over to the right side for us to see what we have. Okay, so when we turn it out, we have this. You can see our dart line like this, and our neckline also turned with Ankara bias outside. And this is the back part of the dress. I'm yet to fix a zipper here. Actually, I just held it to the pin, so I'll fix my zipper and then we'll move over to our sleeve. It's a flare sleeve with Ankara and jean mixed match. Okay, so this is the full dress after attaching the sleeve. So this area, I'm just going to turn it in its bias just like this, so that it can also be neatly turned. Okay, this is the other sleeve. It has also been attached. It's a 3-tier sleeve, and this is the full dress. So kindly like and subscribe to our channel so that you get notification anytime we'll upload a new video. Thank you so much for your support so far. We really appreciate it. God bless you. See you in the next one. Bye.